Chapter 347, Spring-Autumn Soul-Locking Pill. Shui Qianru's face turned completely red and she looked as though she couldn't stand the embarrassment. To a female chauvinist like herself, this was undoubtedly a rare expression. Since young noble Ling has already accepted this jade, you should believe this little sister's sincerity already, right? As Shui Qianru said that, her head was lowered and she did not even dare to face Ling Tian. At the same time, her cheeks were a shade of rosy pink. Believe you? Nope. Ling Tian said with an incredulous tone, since when did I say that I believed you? This is no more than a jade, which is just a precious stone. Not to mention an agreement, even if we were husband and wife, Miss Shui would probably not hesitate in the slightest if killing me was in the interest of your family. I believe that is considered placing family before righteousness. Just like what Miss Deer said previously, Miss Shui was already deeply in love with me but still didn't hesitate to become one with the sword to assassinate me at the Smoky Thea Tower. If not for me having some skill, I would probably be dining with King Yama right now. You! Shui Qianru was angered to the point she started to tremble and her face turned pale. She had already given Ling Tian the Heaven's Heart Jade, which symbolized her lifetime happiness, and Ling Tian had still said such words. My goodness! Ling Tian, are you even considered a man? Besides, I already have a few lovers, and even if they don't mind and I don't despise you, there should still be an order of who came first, right? Ms. Shui, sorry for being rude, but would you be willing to become my concubine? Ling Tian asked in a sincere tone. Despicable. What are you thinking about? Shui Qianru said with embarrassment and anger. Ling Tian. Who do you think you are? Deer could no longer rein in her anger and charged over with indignance. You dare to let the little princess of our Shui family be your concubine? Are you dreaming? Even if she was your first wife, you would not be worthy of her. Ling Tian was not angered in the slightest and only shook his head, so, I don't have the intention of reaching for something out of my reach. Besides, your little princess falls far short of my expectations for my future wife. As he said that, his expression turned solemn. Besides, Miss Shui has always acted in the interests of her family and childish emotions will not be able to restrain Miss Shui. While I will never be unduly humble, I also admit that I do not have that charisma. So, if Miss Shui wants to leave this place and wants me to be at ease, there is only a single solution. Hearing this, Shui Qianru, who was originally in despair, raised her head up and saw Ling Tian taking a small jade bottle out of his bosom. This is the Spring-Autumn Soul-Locking Pill and it was specially refined by me. As the name suggests, this is an extremely potent poison. The word spring and autumn means that this poison can hide itself in a human body for a year without acting up. However, if the antidote isn't consumed in time, the soul of the individual will definitely be destroyed and the process will be extremely wretched. At the end, the individual would not even be able to maintain his consciousness, and he would not be able to control what he does. Right, young noble Ximen had taken this pill back then and I sped up the outburst of the poison by other means. I believe Miss Shui witnessed the potency of the poison for yourself. As Ling Tian said that, Shui Qianru and Deer's faces were both ashen as they trembled. Back then, they had personally witnessed the unsightly things that Ximen King did in the Smoky Thea Tower. How would they not be in shock? If such a thing were to happen to themselves. They didn't dare complete that thought. As long as Miss Shui and your maid can take this pill, I will set both of you free immediately. Both of you can leave anytime you want. Ling Tian then raised up 2 fingers. I only want 2 years. As long as Miss Shui doesn't reveal anything for the next 2 years, we can definitely form a sincere partnership. Of course, I will definitely not make Miss Shui do anything against the interest of your family, Miss Shui can be assured about that. Even if I, Ling Tian, am not a good person, I will definitely not resort to such unscrupulous means. I will give Miss Shui an antidote every year and the poison will be completely removed 2 years later. Only if you take the pill will I be able to believe Miss Shui completely. If Miss Shui believes me, please take the pill. If you cannot believe me, then Ling Tian will not force the matter on you and take my leave." Shui Qianru began to frown as she thought to herself, if I were to take this pill, won't that mean that I would become his slave? If he doesn't give me the real antidote 2 years later and continues controlling me, what should I do? Seeing Shui Qianru's doubts, Ling Tian let out a sigh. "I am also forced by circumstances. Including your brother, your Shui family already has the intention to form an alliance with me. My present strength is weak indeed with my foundations thin, and it is difficult for me to fight with a 1,000-year-old family. Naturally, I would also have the intention to borrow the strength of your Shui family. However, why are we both not requesting an alliance? It is because we don't trust each other and lack the opportunity to work together. With the addition of Ms. Shui, we would be able to form a good relationship and there would definitely be the possibility for a sincere cooperation. Furthermore, there will no longer be a need for us to try and outwit each other in future, and this is definitely a win-win situation." As though she didn't hear what Ling Tian said, she looked at Ling Tian and said with heartbreak, Do you really want me to take this pill?" Ling Tian suddenly felt a strange ache in his heart and an unknown sense of pressure. For some reason, he didn't dare to look at Shui Qianru's heartbroken eyes and even had the urge to snatch the poison back. In the end, Ling Tian's rationality prevailed and he looked off to the side while saying with a cold tone, "Miss Shui, there are tens of thousands of lives in my hands and I do not have a choice but to be careful. I hope Miss Shui will understand me." The moment Ling Tian turned his eyes away, Shui Qianru's eyes twinkled and she seemed to be beaming with radiance again. She then nodded and said slowly, "All right. I will eat it." As these words left her lips, the other 3 people in the room looked at her with shock. Even Ling Tian never expected her to be so resolute. Shui Qianru then picked up a pill with a mournful smile and studied it for a moment before placing it in her mouth calmly. After sucking on it for a moment as though she was tasting it, she swallowed it without hesitation. "Princess!" Deer cried out in shock. Ling Tian felt his heart tremble, that heartbreaking gaze, mournful smile. At this moment, Ling Tian suddenly felt that Shui Qianru didn't consume the poison because she desired freedom. Then what was the reason? Could there be something he missed? "While Dior is a servant, I am willing to go through life and death with the princess." Tears flowed down her cheeks and she swallowed another pill resolutely. After swallowing the pill, she plunged into Shui Qianru's embrace and burst out crying. She could feel the pain and heartbreak Shui Qianru felt when she accepted such a condition. She wasn't lamenting her fate but lamenting the fact that her own beloved man would deal with her using such means. Ling Tian then stood up and said coldly, 3 days later, the medicinal effect will spread across your bodies and the both of you will feel as though your whole body is on fire. A red mark will then appear on your inner cores, but it will fade away after a few days. I will give the both of you a single month to find anyone to cure the poison. If both of you think that it is impossible to cure the poison, then I hope that the Ling and Shui family can form a temporary alliance. As for the person in charge of our correspondence, I hope that it will be Ms. Shui and not anyone else." Ling Tian stood up and walked to the door. When he was about to leave the room, he suddenly stopped and said to Shui Qianru, "From now on, both of you can leave if you wish." As he said that, he walked away without turning back. "Ling Tian." Shui Qianru's voice sounded behind him, "I am very disappointed in you." Her words were filled with thick resentment and disappointment. "Likewise." Ling Tian paused for a moment before replying. Ling Chen asked with doubt, "Young noble, why haven't I heard young noble mention that weird poison before? You didn't feed this pill to Ximen King, right?" In truth, Ling Chen felt that something was wrong the moment Ling Tian took out the bottle. However, she also knew what not to say and what kind of expression she should make to coordinate with Ling Tian. Of course you haven't heard of it before," Ling Tian said. That was a secondary pill I made when experimenting with the great cyclic pellet. Then young noble, that pill should be. Ling Tian blinking her eyes. Not only is there no poison, it is extremely beneficial to a lady's body. Ling Tian blinking his eyes. Before I came here, I added a few more herbs to it, including a deer's antler, a deer's womb. He then whispered into Ling Tian's ears, it is said that it can make the few days of the month not so painful for a woman. You. Annoying. Ling Tian's face turned red as she whined with embarrassment, anger, and happiness. Then why did you still say that a red mark will appear after consuming it? Ling Tian then said with a mysterious smile, that is because I added another herb called the blood-toad gravel. This blood-toad gravel has a special function. If it is dripped on the body of a virgin, it will not fall off even in death. It is called the chastity-protecting sand but is different from an ordinary chastity-protecting sand. After consuming it, it will return to the inner core after a full circulation of inner chi. Regardless of man or woman, a red mark will appear on the inner core temporarily. Furthermore, after the blood-toad gravel is mixed with the snow lotus herb, it would make one feel like his body is on fire after consuming it, as though they had taken an odd poison. Such a feeling will persist for a full month until the medicinal effect is completely dispersed. Hee. Chapter 348, Mysterious Heavenly Sword, complete. Ling Tian had an epiphany, chuckling as she replied, no wonder young noble gave her the time limit of a month to cure the poison, so that was the case. Young noble, you're really too bad. I had no other alternatives left to me. Ling Tian sighed once as he shook his head. Against someone like Shui Qianru who is dead loyal to her family, I had no other choice. Even this decision of mine may not be the best. I'm not sure why, but I keep feeling that this Miss Shui is actually quite the pitiful person. After walking for a while with Ling Tian, Ling Tian felt his heavy emotions and finally couldn't keep her thoughts to herself. Pitiful? Ling Tian coldly replied, a pitiful person is so because there is a point that people hate. She's not pitiful at all, for she is placing her family's benefit above all else. Just like a crazed devout believer, ready to sacrifice all they have for what they believe in. She completely does not know what actually she wants, and what she needs to do. Such a person is not pitiful, but rather foolish. Extremely foolish. Chenner, as a woman, you can go wild, go crazy for the man you love, and you can also sacrifice yourself for your family, your relatives. However, the point I can't accept is a woman sacrificing herself in the name of her family. What does a family stand for? It's merely a rotten and old-fashioned way of showing one's reputation. In the business area, women sacrifice themselves in order to obtain benefits for their family to survive, and in the imperial court, men use women to exchange for favors to ensure their meteoric rise in their careers. Across countries, emperors use women to exchange for temporary world peace. Bullshit. All these matters are supposed to be achieved by your own hands, and to think that you do that by exchanging women? They should be ashamed of themselves. Men who treat women as objects don't deserve to be men. They should just castrate themselves and live their lives as eunuchs. As for those women who willingly sacrifice themselves for their family and clans, they might never get to understand just what they have traded their life for. What they get in exchange is just the contempt of the clan. Other than her parents, no one will think about the woman's future or happiness. Thus, is her sacrifice really worth it? One should always take their life in their own hands. Be it man or woman, there is no difference. Ling Tian harshly spat out. One can work their tail off for the family, but they should never have to sacrifice themselves for the family. A family clan is just like a country. Those who sacrifice themselves for it should be men and not have them hide behind a woman. As for the women, they should be cherished and loved, and not sent out to be a shield for the family. Young noble's words might make sense, Ling Tian slowly responded, after pondering about it, but Chenner feels that there is nothing wrong in the woman giving up her life for the family. To protect the clan should not just be the responsibility of the men. A woman should have equal responsibility. Ling Tian laughed out cheerfully. To hear you say this makes me very happy. However, this is my own deep-rooted problem. I know that I might be a little chauvinistic at times, but this is something that I've never been able to live with, even since I was young. Lightly leaning against Ling Tian, Ling Chen voiced out softly, young noble is a hero of this present age, and of course will not be able to accept this act of trading women or children for benefits. However, Chenner dares to confirm something. At this point, her face revealed a mesmerizing smile. What are you sure about? Ling Tian asked. If a girl could be the woman of someone like young noble, that would be the most blissful thing in her entire life. I don't doubt it. Ling Chen giggled. Ling Tian stood in shock for a while, before sighing and saying, that might not be true. There are no absolutes in life. In the end, I'm still a man, and I will have problems, like being unfaithful, or not being able to control my desires. When I see a pretty girl, I can't help but take a few extra looks. I'm just not good at controlling my desires. Chenner might be my favorite woman, but this doesn't mean that I will not love anything except you. A sweet smile blossomed upon Ling Chen's face. So long as I'm young noble's favorite, that's enough for me. Young noble is also too modest. For someone of your stature, how could there not be many women throwing themselves at you? If it was some other young noble, he would have long ago married and set up a family. Young noble is already being very disciplined. In the eyes of Feng Mo and the rest, they respect you for this point. Ha ha ha, Ling Tian chuckled at her speech. Little lass, how would you know? I would rather have a fresh and juicy peach like you, than to eat a mushy and wrinkled dried apricot. Ling Chen's face reddened, and she pretended to stomp her feet in anger. Suddenly, she turned and blew lightly in his ear, whispering, young noble, then. This fresh peach here. Was it sweet? Ling Tian's eyes lit up, and as his eyes roamed over her svelte body, he subconsciously stretched out his tongue, licking his lips hungrily as he nodded his head. Sweet. So sugary, that this young noble's teeth are all dropping out. You're so naughty. Ling Chen's face turned completely red and she immediately ran forward in a hurry. Young noble Ling, Lady Ling Chen. From up ahead someone approached them. It was Meng Li Ji. Mr. Meng, Ling Tian greeted him with a smile. May I ask where is Mr. Meng headed to today? I've something to discuss with young noble. Meng Li Ji stared at Ling Tian with his bright eyes, bearing a solemn expression. Please tell me, Ling Tian is all ears. I feel that your remarks and opinions today might not be appropriate. Meng Li Ji spoke with a heavy expression. If young noble's aim is to protect your family and place well, then that is naturally not a problem. But if young noble would like to conquer all under heavens, that might not be a good thing. Oh? Let's hear the details. Ling Tian smiled. Even in the ancient times, the saying goes, having the heart of the citizens equals obtaining all under heaven. However, young noble's cruel way of treating the soldiers is poles apart from what the sayings follow, and this is a violation. If you want to achieve something bigger, then you need to be magnanimous and treat everyone well. Only then will you achieve their undying loyalty to you. Meng Li Ji gabbled non-stop, obviously a little unsatisfied at how Ling Tian was not living up to his expectations. Ling Tian now looked at Meng Li Ji with a weird look. Mr. Meng, Ling Tian actually thought that having read through all the classics, you would have long understood their underlying meanings and not blindly believe in what they have said. However, I found out today that even someone of your caliber is still restricted by conventions. Meng Li Ji flared up, young noble, are you just refusing to listen to the bitter truth? Ling Tian shook his head in response, it's not that I can't listen. I also understand the meaning of bitter truth. Regarding this matter on governance, in my opinion, The sentence of having the heart of the citizens equals obtaining all under heaven is just a mistake. Mistake? Meng Liji's rage shot up, and he boomed out, "This is the great way of governing all under heaven, set by all our ancestors a long time ago. How could there be a mistake?" Ling Tian only smiled mysteriously. "Let's put it this way. I'll trouble Mr. to return and browse through the ancient records. I'll gift you with a sentence, and if Mr. thinks that Ling Tian is wrong, then Ling Tian will gladly accept punishment. How about that?" "Good." Meng Liji forcefully spoke. "However, if your scrutiny proves that Ling Tian is correct, then what will you do?" Ling Tian looked at Meng Liji with the kind of expression a fisherman would have when setting a bait to reel in a fish. "If that's the case, then I would be willing to strive to my utmost to contribute to young noble's cause. I'll even offer my life to your cause." Meng Liji was decisive, and knowing what Ling Tian wanted, he immediately laid down his cards. "Good." Ling Tian praised. "Then may I ask, young noble, what is the sentence that you wish to give me?" Meng Liji asked. "Simple, it is to reverse whatever that has been said." Ling Tian enunciated every word slowly. "To control all under heaven is to obtain the citizens' hearts." Ling Tian then laughed as he walked away, with Ling Chen tagging along behind him. He left behind a ruminating Meng Liji, his head lowered as he pondered Ling Tian's words. As Ling Tian walked away, he recited, "Before conquering all under heavens, I only need to utilize, to guide the hearts of the citizens and their grievances. That is enough. If my heart is not stable, what right do I have to talk about the hearts of the citizens? Only after I've conquered all can I begin to focus on getting the hearts of my people, only then can my governance last. At that time, it will really be called achieving the hearts of the citizens." Thus, the meaning of knowing the hearts of all under heaven is actually just listening and knowing what the masses want. Meng Liji raised his head up, looking at the back of Ling Tian walking into the distance. He sank into deep thought at Ling Tian's speech. Just as the various leaders of the Ling family courtyard sat down with Ling Tian for a meal, someone came up to report to Ling Tian, saying that Shui Qian'er had already left. Ling Tian only nodded and gave an instruction to Ling Feng and Ling Yun. The two of them nodded, immediately setting off. Ling Qi was still leading the new law enforcement squad members to clean up the surrendered members in the battlefield. Inside the courtyard, a strong smell of blood could be noticed from a long ways away. In the distance, one could see cartloads of bleeding corpses being sent out. The gentle and soft-hearted Ling Chen furrowed her brows, unable to eat anymore. Seeing this, Ling Tian lightly squeezed her hand, sending an apologetic look to her. Ling Chen tucked her head down in embarrassment but still allowed him to continue holding her hand. At the same time, she felt that the reek of blood was not that unbearable any longer. Ling Jian spoke at this time, "Young noble, Ling 5 has already sent over that completed black iron sword that you asked for. Without your instructions, we didn't dare to move it, and we left it in the secret chamber. Does young noble wish to have a look at it?" Ling Tian immediately felt a rush of excitement, exclaiming, "That's definitely something I need to see. Alright, let's head there immediately." As he spoke, he was already standing up. While the rest knew that this was a plan from Ling Tian and Ling Jian to help Ling Chen, how could they still let go of such a good opportunity to have a meal with Ling Tian? Thus, someone suggested, "How about we bring some wine and dishes there, sampling wine while observing a sword? That's a great joy in life. Young noble, please agree." Ling Tian smiled in agreement, leading everyone to begin packing up. The secret chamber was bereft of furniture, with only 10 odd-looking swords hung on the wall. This was how Ling Tian had requested it, without embroidery and pretenses, just a black forest of weapons, emitting waves of killing intent. Ling Jian stepped forward, grasping one of the swords in his hands. With a shrill sound, the sword was pulled from its sheath. Those present immediately felt a drop in temperature as a wave of light refracted off the sword body, illuminating the room without restraint. This sword 2 feet, 9 3/4 inches long, weighing 3.85 kilograms. The sword body has been refined and smelted 100 times, consisting of steel mixed in with the ink black steel. This sword can cut through metal like mud. Ling Tian pulled out the sword on his waist with his other hand and swung it towards the black iron sword. Chapter 349, Ling Tian comprehends the sword. The moment the two swords connected, there actually was none of the jarring clang of two metals ringing, but rather more like a sharp knife going through wood. A low scraping sound was heard, and Shua, the reflective surface of Ling Tian's original sword, was sliced into two. SSSSS. All those behind Ling Tian took in a sharp breath of cold air. Who would have thought that just by adding a minute amount of black iron into a sword, that it would result in such unparalleled keenness? Such a godly weapon was only heard of in the legends, but was now displayed in reality for all to see. Ling Tian then grinned as he approached Ling Tian. But just as he was about to speak, he was surprisingly cut off by Ling Tian, who said, "No need to say anything, I know your intentions. From today on, you shall only use the broken sword. None of these blades will belong to you, for you do not treasure your companion weapon at all." Ah! Ling Tian was stunned silly. He could not help but plead, "Young noble." Ever since the blades were sent over, Ling Tian already started to have his designs. As an assassin, who would doubt his fanaticism over a good blade? However, Ling Tian had never once approached this place during the last few days, and thus, even if you gave Ling Tian 1,000,000 points of courage, he still would not dare to sneak one out for himself. Finally, he managed to lure Ling Tian in here today. Ling Tian originally thought that he stood a good chance to carry out his scheme and sliced his sword in half, sending the signal to Ling Tian that his sword was already broken. Thus, would the young noble please gift me a new one? How would he know that his intentions were already completely seen through by Ling Tian? Thus, before Ling Tian could speak, Ling Tian had already cut in and condemned him to use his broken sword. Ling Tian stared at the two halves, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Ling Tian burst out into laughter. "Serves you right, little Tian. Who asked you to try to play the young noble for a fool? This is karma." "Last Chen, you." Ling Tian rolled his eyes and was ready to retort back, but then he realized everything that happened was his own fault, and could only hang his head down low. Ling Tian stared at Ling Tian for a while, before suddenly sighing, "Ling Tian, as an assassin, the sword is akin to your second life. And your current sword had already followed you for a good 6 years, helping you to reap over 1,000 lives. You could even say that, in this world, the one most loyal to you was your sword. But to think you could heartlessly just snap your sword in two? Don't you have any sentimental value towards it? Young noble, I. Ling Tian was speechless at the moment, and could only lower his head further. An assassin not only has to be true to himself but also true to his sword. One sword in hand, the heavens and earth are mine. This is what I mean. If an assassin is not true to his sword, then his way of the sword will never achieve great success. This is something which you must understand on your own. However, the moment you break through this, then your sword moves, sword skills, and even your sword itself will gain a sort of sentience. At that point, this would be the small success stage of the way of the sword." Ling Tian slowly spoke. "This is the step one needs to take to enter the realm of the sword." As Ling Tian turned to walk out, he left behind a sentence, "When you have understood the feelings of your broken sword, then come and look for me for a new sword." Ling Chen, Feng, Yan, Lei, Diane, Qi and the rest, everyone is entitled to one sword. All of you can come and choose your own. As for the remaining 6, they will be left here. This includes the sword reserved for Ling Tian. However, if he fails to meet my expectations, then that sword will remain buried here for all eternity." Ling Tian harshly spoke. He raised up 2 fingers before continuing, "I'll only give you 2 days' worth of time. After 2 days, come to the residence for me to test your way of the sword." However, it seemed as though Ling Tian did not hear his last sentence. His eyes were fixed on the 2 broken halves of his sword, a complex expression hung upon his face. It looked like a mix between joy and sadness, as though he was going insane. Upon retrieving a sword, Ling Tian could not bear but approach Ling Tian upon seeing his desolate look. However, she was immediately pulled aside by Ling Tian, who whispered to her, "Don't disturb him, it's his best time for him to comprehend the way of the sword currently. If his thoughts are disrupted, then all his previous efforts will come to naught, and he will find it difficult to further his realm in future." Ling Tian suddenly realized, young noble actually wanted to use this chance to let him further his sword path. "That's right." Ling Tian nodded. "If I can allow him to comprehend this layer of the way of the sword, this can allow him to achieve the state of man and sword as one." Turning to the others, he instructed, "In the next 3 days, no one is to step into this secret chamber, and all are to keep a distance of 50 feet from it. Ling Lei, Ling Dian, you guys are to guard this place. Those who do not heed my warning, kill first before asking. Is that clear?" Ling Lei and Ling Dian let out sounds of assent, before assuming their positions, standing unmoving. Ling Tian eyed the secret chamber quietly, and said in a low voice, "The lands are getting chaotic. Ling Tian, you're my sharpest as well as most loyal sword. I hope that you will not betray my trust and can turn into a real sword. Only in this way can you help me." In the dark of the night, Ling Tian and Ling Chen rode on a horse, leaving the place and returning to Sky Bearing. "Young noble, what is the way of the sword?" "Way of the sword is exactly as such. There's no what to talk about. You can only comprehend it on your own." "Are there differences in the way of the sword?" "Of course, there are different layers. Man and sword as one is just a lower layer in the way of the sword." "Then what is the highest state one can achieve?" "This can only be comprehended on your own. If I tell you now, it will only disrupt your mental state, and it serves no purpose whatsoever." "But doesn't the Nangong family sword god manual also boast of man and sword as one at the final stage? Even Yi Beif and Shui Qian also reached the stage of man and sword as one. In that case, isn't it simple to reach this realm? Their so-called man and sword as one is actually nothing but a joke. The moment Ling Tian comprehends the way, you will naturally understand what is the true man and sword as one." "Then when can I achieve that stage like little Jian?" "You?" In the darkness, Ling Tian's voice sounded indistinct. "When you actually begin to kill, maybe you will immediately comprehend it. A sword without the stain of blood can never reach the stage of man and sword as one." "Oh." These few days, Third Master Yu felt that he had actually lived the first half of his life in vain. Even as the respectable Third Master of the number 1 aristocratic family, he felt that the past few days had been the best, as though he was an immortal indulging in life. Every meal of his was accompanied by a vat of wine, and the most surprising thing was that even after drinking for 6 days straight, he had yet to meet a duplicate type of wine. This led a wine addict like the Third Master to feel as though he had already entered the heavens. "What a paradise!" These 3 words were repeated like a mantra before every meal that Third Master Yu ate. Furthermore, with the improvement of Ling Qi and group, there was no need for all of them to go against Third Master Yu together, and only 2 were needed to handle him currently. This was also another part that greatly satisfied him, unlike when he was at home and everyone avoided him like the plague. "Third Master, the family head has sent a letter over, it's a secret missive." Zhu Ling walked out of the room, holding a small circular bamboo pipe. "What bullshit missive? Is it to ridicule the fact that this old man cannot read? Hurry and read it out." Yuman Tian waved his hand casually, not even putting the fact that it was a secret in his heart. The only thought in his heart was, what sort of wine is that kid going to bring for me tonight? With the thought of wine, he had already started to uncontrollably salivate. This is an order only for my third brother, that he is to immediately work on promoting kinship between the Ling and Yu families. No matter what, he has to finish this as soon as possible. No form of negligence or tardiness is to be permitted. After reading the first paragraph, Zhu Ling was already tongue-tied. Just what was going on? Could it be that the impact of the Ling family could be larger than the water of heavenly wind? Or else, why would the family head go ahead with the proposal regardless of the circumstances? What kind of meaning is Big Brother trying to say? What was that about promoting something? Yu Tian put up a leg as he spoke, scratching his head. The self-proclaimed erudite and elegant third master was actually someone who knew what he was capable of. He knew that he would not be able to read it and hence did not even bother to give it much thought. Since he had to pass it over to Zhu Ling for interpretation no matter what, he decided to save his sparse brain cells from the trouble. As for his own elder brother, Yu Tian always looked up to him and was awkward around him. This was not because he feared his brother, but rather because he was afraid that his brother would spew some intellectual gibberish and befuddle him. Every time they had a discussion, it either ended with his brother chewing him out or him being slowly lulled to sleep. Family head wishes you to represent him in proposing to the Ling family and betroth Miss Yu to Ling Tian. As for her title, you are to fight for the best possible. Zhu Ling slowly spoke. At the end, he added in a little of his own thoughts, making Yu Tian fight for his niece's position. In Yu Lu's original missive, he did not even care what position she got. Oh haha, that's easy for me. Yu Tian stood up saying, I'll go look for that fellow now. I've long thought of him as my nephew-in-law, so now that Big Brother has agreed, what does this mean? This shows that my foresight is as good as my brother's. Old Zhu, to think that us brothers could come to the same conclusion for the first time after so many years, what a rare occurrence, Third Master Yu replied pleasantly, having the sort of feeling that could only be described as great minds think alike. He even dreamed that he was close to approaching his eldest brother's level. If Yu Lu were to be able to read his thoughts, most likely this youngest brother would end up being scolded and beaten up again. Zhu Ling stood there in shock for a moment, before realizing that Yu Tian had already walked out of the door. He immediately rushed out, shouting, Third Master, this sort of marriage proposal has to be discussed with the elders of the family too, not just Ling Tian himself. He suddenly stuttered to a halt, for he found out that Yu Tian's shadow had long disappeared. Just by fighting with the 5 Ling brothers the last few days, without concentrating on the improvement of his cultivation or martial skills, even his movement techniques were already far beyond what they had been before. Chapter 350, Third Master's Proposal. Peng. Zhu Ling's fist smashed onto the door frame and almost let out a groan. Not a groan of pain but one of frustration. A boorish man like Yu Tian wouldn't understand proper etiquette and it would be a wonder if he didn't screw things up. Perhaps, the marriage of their little princess would be turned into a complete joke because of him. My dear family head, you are wise for your whole life but foolish for a single moment. How can you hand such an important matter into the hands of Third Master Yu? Zhu Ling looked at the direction Yu Tian left and spat out a mouth of spittle and let out a curse that he will never dare to say in front of Yu Tian, FK. When Yu Tian came to Ling Tian's courtyard, Ling Tian was under the rack of grapes admiring Yu Bingyan painting. Under the aid of the great cyclic pellet, Yu Bingyan had also achieved a breakthrough in her bodily functions. Apart from a huge increase in her cultivation, her body was as good as healthy in the short run. Furthermore, she was able to fully control her inner qi as her heart desired. With Ling Tian's meticulous teachings and her good mood, her improvements were extremely swift, and she had already reached the realm of heart and mind as one, heart and intent as one in her painting skills. The way Ling Tian saw it, as long as she could reach the realm of heart and martial arts as one, she would be able to meld her martial arts and painting together. As long as she makes a breakthrough into that realm, it would be the time when Yu Bingyan was completely transformed. Then, as long as Ling Tian's divine shocking dragon formula reaches the 10th stage, he would have the confidence of uprooting Yu Bingyan's ailment. Bang! Third Master Yu did not display any courtesy as he pushed open the door of Ling Tian's courtyard and slammed the door shut. The three people in the courtyard were immediately startled, and Ling Tian said while shaking his head, "Third Master, ever since your arrival, I have already changed the doors to my courtyard 3 times. It seems that I will have to change them into metal doors soon." "What bullshit door? This daddy here has pressing matters. A happy occasion. Who cares about your door?" Third Master Yu began shouting with spittle flying all over, "You brat, you are going to become a groom." Yu Mantian's shocking words thundered in Ling Tian's head, and both Ling Chen and Yu Bingyan both turned their heads around and looked at Yu Mantian in shock. "Ah! My beloved one is about to be married? Why don't I know about that? Who is the bride?" Ling Chen was still able to remain calm, but definitely not Yu Bingyan. She knew that while her third uncle usually tended to shoot his mouth, she knew that he would never tell lies. With her hands trembling, a large blotch of black ink was smeared over her painting. Satisfied with the commotion he caused, Yu Mantian said with a wide smile, "Little brat, your fortune has arrived. My big brother has given the order to let this third master propose a marriage to your Ling family, to let this last Bingyan become your wife. Come and pay your respect to your third father-in-law. Have you turned foolish from joy?" Yu Mantian said with his chest stuck out and hands on his hip, looking as though he was really the third father-in-law. Third father-in-law? Was there such a title? A black line was seen on Ling Tian's face. It was the first time in his life where he was completely speechless. After a moment of loss, Ling Chen suddenly covered her mouth and laughed to the point she was swaying from side to side. You, third uncle. Yu Bingyan, who was stunned silly, began stomping her feet as tears began to fill the corner of her eyes. She had never seen someone so idiotic. Yu Bingyan was both angered and embarrassed in her heart. Such a joyful affair was turned into a complete joke by her dear third uncle. She had never seen anyone who proposed a marriage to the groom instead of the groom's parents. Wasn't he trying to embarrass himself? According to the etiquette of the current generation, as long as the Ling family was dissatisfied, her marriage would become an impossibility. Furthermore, even if he wanted to find the groom himself, he still shouldn't do it in front of the bride herself. I am also a party involved in this matter. What's wrong? Yu Mantian scratched his head in ignorance and was completely puzzled by the reaction of the three people in front of him. He suddenly thought he understood what was going on and flew into a rage. "You darn brat, aren't willing? You are actually unwilling to marry Bingyan?" The more he thought about it, the more he felt his guess was correct, and he sent out a palm strike. "Damn it! You dare to be unwilling? Third uncle." Yu Bingyan stomped her feet and stood in between both of them. Her face turned completely red as tears filled her eyes. You will really anger me to death. Woo wah woo." Yu Bingyan then covered her face and burst out crying. Third Master. Zhu Ling rushed over in frustration. "Third Master, you shouldn't be finding young noble Ling to discuss such a matter. You should be proposing the marriage to Duke Ling or old Madam Ling. Why aren't you following the rules?" Zhu Ling stomped his feet in frustration. He had arrived a step too late and a fight had almost broken out. Who would propose a marriage in such a way? Can this be considered proposing a marriage? This was no different from forcing a marriage. If this matter were to spread out, the Yu family would definitely lose a great deal of face. Yu Mantian awkwardly retracted his palm strike and began to ruffle his messy hair. He then suddenly burst out into an outrage. "Darn BSD road. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You caused this third master to lose face. Are you happy now?" Zhu Ling was completely speechless as he thought to himself, You disappeared in a flash and I didn't even have the time to finish reading out the family head's message. How would I have the time to tell you about that? Lead the way. This third master will go and find Duke Ling. To promote kinship between us. Ling Tian almost fainted. You are going to promote kinship with my grandfather? Seeing Yu Tian leaving while cursing Zhu Ling along the way, Ling Chen's eyes bent into two crescent moons. Congratulations, young noble. Miss Bing Yan is tender and wise, and furthermore fully devoted to you. She is definitely a good match for young noble, and the pair of lovers have finally come together. Ling Tian let out a HMPH and said, Chenner, do you really think that way? Don't you have any other thoughts? Ling Chen let out a gentle smile and said tenderly, what is young noble talking about? While this matter definitely isn't as simple as it seems on the surface, young noble and sister Bing Yan being in love is a truth. No matter what the agenda of the Yu family, young noble and sister Bing Yan can finally have a happy ending. Ling Tian let out a chuckle and suddenly grabbed Ling Chen into his embrace. Chenner, what? What is your opinion? Do you really not have any thoughts? Me? Ling Chen was stunned for a moment. What do young noble mean by that? You aren't jealous at all? Ling Tian asked. If you are not jealous at all, this young noble is going to be angry. Ling Chen's eyes sparkled as she replied, young noble is the most beloved person to me and your happiness is mine as well. Why will? Chenner is still a lady after all, and I will definitely be a little bit jealous. You acting like this makes me happier. Ling Tian laughed and rubbed Ling Chen's head dotingly. He then changed the topic. I wonder what Yu Man Lu's intentions are? Why do I feel as though there are many dangers hidden within, and this proposal of his reeks like a scheme? There must definitely be something fishy going on. Ling Chen nodded her head as she said with thought, there isn't any news from the north yet and we cannot make an appropriate decision. We can only play it by ear at the moment. At the very least, this marriage proposal is a good thing. That's right, this is definitely a win-win situation. However, with the status of the Yu family, why would they lower their status and take the initiative to propose the marriage? Furthermore, why would they place a boorish man like Yu Tian in charge of such an important thing? Furthermore, even if Yanner's father, Yu Ting, doesn't make a personal appearance, they should still send an elder of the Yu family down to discuss the details. Ling Tian said with a frown as he paced around, but from Yu Tian's reaction, this matter is definitely true. Yanner is only 16, right? Why would Yu Lu make such a decision? Did something happen in the Yu family? An inspiration flashed in Ling Chen's head. Does the Yu family need the aid of young noble? But they cannot ask for aid openly, and so they proposed a marriage. They want to seek aid from young noble under the guise of a marriage? Unlikely. Ling Tian shook his head. While there are some possibilities to this, they shouldn't be so anxious if that was the case. There isn't a need to rush about it, and they can definitely plan the matters slowly. Just what did I miss out? This matter isn't simple. Old Madam Ling's response was very simple. I have to ask Tanner first. As long as he doesn't object to it, we can accept the proposal. Old Madam Ling could naturally tell that Yu Bingyan was already deeply in love with Ling Tian, and Ling Tian also had her in his heart. The way Old Madam Ling saw it, even if there was something fishy about this matter, they should still accept this proposal. As for Ling Zhou and Chu Tinger, they naturally didn't have any objections. Chu Tinger was originally frustrated over her son's marriage. Knowing that even the #1 family of the continent was here with a marriage proposal and even seemed like they wanted the marriage to happen as soon as possible, Chu Tinger felt extremely good in her heart. She couldn't wait to go out and publicize the matter. Who was it who said that my son was a silk pants? Not even letting me see your daughters as though guarding against a thief? HMPH, can you even be compared to the Yu family? Chu Tinger felt extremely proud of herself right now. Old Madam Ling originally wanted to send a maid to fetch Ling Tian over so they could discuss this matter as a family. After all, Yu Tian was here to propose a marriage and he belonged to the Yu family. However, when she said that she had to seek the opinion of Ling Tian, she never imagined that Yu Tian would shout out, "I will go and ask him." Slapping himself on the chest, "Rest assured, old madam, you can leave this matter to me. Will that Ling brat dare to say no?" Yu Tian's words stunned old Madam Ling silly. Once the marriage was decided, this third Master Yu would become their in-law. Furthermore, he was still Ling Tian's senior. Was he really going to become the matchmaker with his status? It wouldn't matter if you want to become the matchmaker for your own niece. But you actually want to be the matchmaker for both parties. Especially when she heard Yu Tian say, "If he doesn't agree, I will beat him up." These words had made both old Madam Ling and Duke Ling raise their hands in surrender. Chapter 351, Willing to be a concubine. Old Madam Ling only managed to squeeze out a sentence, "Since that's the case, then Tinger please follow third Master Yu over to Tanner's place to have a look," before the two elderly people busied themselves with preparing the tea. This matter made them burst out into smiles, even allowing Ling Zan, who was still worried about the matter of Long Xiang, to have a much better mood. Chu Tinger suffered quite a bit attempting to catch up to Yu Tian, but she ended up still being slower than him. The moment she arrived, she realized Yu Tian was standing by the well, muttering irresolutely to himself. Ling Tian and Ling Chen stand under the grape rack, grinning at third Master Yu, who was muttering to himself like a raving lunatic beside the well, as though they were watching a good show. Chu Tinger immediately felt a headache coming on and went to peer into the well, curious at what was in there. All she saw was a small board erected beside the well, and on it was written, "The third master of the Yu family, unrivaled in martial arts. Unhesitatingly using his body, opening up new grounds." Yu Tian was continuously muttering these few words to himself, gradually getting more and more excited. He pointed with a finger and spoke in a tone full of pride the moment Chu Tinger approached, saying, "Madam, look at this. This is a board erected by Ling Tian in honor of my legendary strength. Actually, he has exaggerated this quite a bit, but he isn't too far away from the truth actually, ha ha ha." Chu Tinger at this point already had her eyes open to her widest in incredulity, and the corners of her mouth twitched incessantly. In the end, she was unable to hold it in and burst out with a putchy sound. With difficulty, she staggered all the way to where the grape racks were, grasping the table with one trembling hand as she lowered herself onto a chair. Ling Chen immediately went over to pat her on the back, trying to make her calm down. It looks like third Master Yu's goal was to destroy the entire Ling residence. How would Chu Tinger be unaware of the history of this well? The moment a new well suddenly sprouted in her son's backyard, of course she would be the first to question him. However, after knowing what transpired, and seeing Yu Tian's smug face, to control one's laughter would make one's organs spasm with the effort. Yu Tian was actually quite reluctant to part with the well. In his heart, he had already decided that when all the other Yu family members were here, he would definitely bring them over here to witness his glorious achievement. "Brat, what ideas do you have? Come and say them out, this third master will make the decision for you too." Yu Tian spoke with a confident tone. He then added on, "Don't need to have so many considerations. Just say what's on your mind, no need to be embarrassed." Hearing his words, Chu Tinger could not help but roll her eyes. The way third Master Yu was speaking, it seemed like Ling Tian and Yu Bingyan were a pair of star-crossed lovers who required him to step in and mediate. Thus, taking this chance, Chu Tinger could only tactfully say, "Tanner, what we meant was that you can decide about this matter on your own. No matter who you choose, so long as you like her, we will not interfere with your marriage. After all, based on our current status, there is no need for us to lower our heads when facing the other families anymore." Ling Tian muttered irresolutely to himself for a while, before solemnly speaking, Bing Yan is a good girl, and will definitely be a good wife. Regardless of whether the Yu family would come up to propose a marriage, Bing Yan would still be one of the major women in my life. However, there's something I have to state clearly in front of Third Master Yu. When Ling Tian was speaking as such, he had adopted this serious tone which was never seen in him before. Even the restless Yu Man Tian had subconsciously straightened himself. Right now, I dare to assure you that Bing Yan will definitely be my woman. However, I have to apologize. I will not be able to offer her a name. Ling Tian slowly spoke. The reason why Ling Tian spoke thus was because he guessed that the Yu family was gunning for the title of the Ling family's young madam, which was why they stepped forward to propose marriage. This was done in order to slowly usurp the Ling family's strength. If the Yu family wanted to use Bing Yan as a bargaining chip, that would only work effectively if she had the position of the first wife. Thus, without it, they would not be able to cause much trouble, and that would be doubly so since Ling Tian was still on the watch for them. Of course, the best way would actually be to reject the marriage proposal immediately and cut off all potential troubles. However, Ling Tian was not willing to do so, and Yu Bing Yan might also be deeply wounded by this. The Yu family could then use this chance to make a fuss. If they ever cut ties, this would be a terrible outcome. That's no problem at all. Yu Man Tian laughed. My eldest brother's idea is actually just to fulfill Yu Bing Yan's infatuation, so as long as she is able to become your wife, that would be good. Yu Man Tian then laughed in satisfaction. Kid, next time, you'll have to call me third uncle when you see me. Do you understand? Wahaha, this is the first time I'm so glad to have become the matchmaker. At this moment, Yu Man Tian felt that his intelligence had already surpassed mortality. No wonder his eldest brother had asked him to come over here to bring them together. He was indeed one with great foresight. If it were anyone else, how could Ling Tian defer so easily to them, given his arrogant and obstinate attitude? Other than the third master himself, who could settle it so cleanly and properly. Third master, the engagement gifts. Zhu Ling, who had rushed over hurriedly, had been standing by the side for quite a while, and now came over to prompt Yu Man Tian. Yes, I know. I'm now very calm indeed. One Yu Man Tian had actually heard the phrase engagement gifts as calm down and be steady. You guys don't need to panic. This third master is extremely composed when dealing with important matters. I'll be careful. Zhu Ling was infuriated, but could only whisper to him again, it's an engagement gift, third master. Both sides must exchange a token of engagement. It was only at this time that Yu Man Tian was startled. However, feeling around his body, he realized he did not have anything. He immediately turned red in embarrassment, and shouted out loudly, Bing Yan, Yanner, hurry and come out. Third uncle has something to consult with you. Even though he raised his volume, there was still no sign of Yu Bing Yan whatsoever. He could only act smart and rub his nose while saying, this lass, seems like she's shy. Ling Chen could only sigh when looking at Yu Man Tian's behavior. In her heart, she thought, Sister Bing Yan is so pitiful. It took her so long in order to get what she wanted, but it turns out that they sent this clown over to propose. Even if nothing went wrong, this can still be considered a laughingstock, to have ended this proposal and engagement on such a weird note. With Yu Bing Yan's current emotions, she probably has long since hidden under a blanket, let alone responding to Yu Man Tian's shouts. At this point, Ling Chen stood up and smiled, saying, Third Master, no need to panic, I'll go and find Sister Bing Yan. Chu Tinger nodded towards Ling Chen and took out a case of white jade, presenting it solemnly towards Yu Man Tian. Third Master Yu, this is the Ling family's heirloom. That year, our ancestor and his wife were paupers, thus when they tied the knot, our ancestor had nothing on him to purchase an engagement token, and could only snap off the brass rings on his headband and fashion them into a chain. With such a tiny token, they spent their life together in love. However, the strange thing was when the Ling family grew richer, our ancestor bought a new jade pendant for his wife, but she refused to remove the chain of linked hearts. Just like that, they lived until they were old, and only before she passed away did his wife agree to remove her chain and pass it to her daughter-in-law. She left these words, that all daughters-in-law of the Ling family should put this on, symbolizing that the couple's hearts would beat as one. From then on, this has continued down as the one and only Ling family heirloom. Hearing this, even the carefree Ling Tian also displayed a rare expression of respect and admiration and solemnly received this white jade case. Ling Tian boomed, "Sister-in-law, rest assured. My Yu family's daughter will live up to your expectations." As Chu Tinger nodded her head in ease, Ling Chen returned, her face all smiles as she spoke. Sister Bing Yan has hidden under the blankets due to her embarrassment. As she spoke, she flipped her wrist and revealed a piece of jade. "This is the engagement gift that Sister Bing Yan has informed me to hand over to you. Young noble, this is a good item." The moment Ling Chen took out the jade, Ling Tian had been fixated on it. Why was Yu Bing Yan's engagement gift exactly the same as Shui Qian's, even down to the size? What was going on? Just as he stretched his hands over, Ling Chen's hands retracted as she continued, "However, Sister Bing Yan has a condition to state. This is not something I should say, so we should wait for Sister Bing Yan to come." Everyone was pleasantly surprised, as no one would have expected someone who was as shy as her would come over during her big event. Everyone turned towards Ling Tian, smiling to themselves. Indeed, she could be considered a member of the Yu family, for being able to push aside her embarrassment. Under everyone's gazes, Yu Bing Yan slowly and shyly walked out to meet everyone. Her jade-white smooth face was tinged with a slight red haze, her head trying to shrink into her chest and her hands constantly tugging on the hems of her shirt. From this, one could see how much courage she had mustered to appear here. And, third angle. Yu Bing Yan bowed formally once and started to tremble. "At this point, I believe that I do not have the capability to make requests, but there's something I need to say, or else I will not feel comfortable. Please forgive me. For this engagement, would the elders please agree to allow Yanner to be Brother Yan's concubine?" Yu Bing Yan bit her lip as she spoke, her face already deathly pale. "Why is that so?" Chu Tinger almost jumped out of her skin in fright. This was the first time she saw a lady wanting to be demoted instead of being promoted. One had to know how vast the difference in position was between first wife and concubine. Especially so for the only princess in the strongest aristocratic family. To request for such a thing was out of everyone's expectations. Chapter 352, Thunder in the Clear Skies. Reporting to Aunt, Bing Yan has had an incurable illness since I was young, and death could befall me at any moment. I may die tomorrow, or I may die next year. I don't know when my death will come. While outsiders think that my status is one of honor, my status will only add on to Tian''G.E.'s frustrations. Bing Yan is extremely useless and can't aid Tian''G.E. in either the martial or literary arts. The only reliable thing is the fact that my body is still pure and untainted. Bing Yan originally intended to spend this life of mine alone. After I complete my role in the family, I could rest in peace and enter the Yellow Springs without regrets. However, I never expected that the heavens would take pity on me and let me meet Tian''G.E. A tear fell from the corner of her eyes. I originally intended to never marry Tian''G.E. so that I wouldn't become a burden in his life. However, I always had that little bit of selfish desire in my heart. I hoped that when I passed on, the engraving on my tombstone would be that I was Ling Tian's woman. Just this small wish of mine is enough. Even if we can't be husband and wife when we are alive, Bing Yan hopes that I can be the daughter-in-law of the Ling family in the afterlife. To me, this is also happiness. Yu Bingyan said with her eyes shut and tears streaming down her cheeks. If I become Tian''G.E.'s first wife and die while young, it would be inevitable for Tian''G.T to be labeled as a widower. Bingyan isn't willing to see Tian''G.T suffer any form of grievance because of me. So, I hope that both of you elders will agree to my request. If you can't agree to my request, I would rather die than agree to this marriage. Yu Bingyan knelt down on the floor and leaned on Chu Tinger. Haze. You silly lass. Chu Tinger let out a long sigh with tears glistening in her eyes. What a pitiful lass, what do you want me to say? As a lady, how could Chu Tinger not tell that Yu Bingyan's current actions were evidence that she was deeply in love with Ling Tian? Such a deep love for him, such consideration for him. It was enough to prove that Yu Bingyan would do anything for Ling Tian. Furthermore, she definitely wouldn't hesitate in the slightest. Even the usually boorish Yu Tian let out a depressed sigh and went silent for a long while with a trace of melancholy on his face. Yu Bingyan's illness had always been the biggest worry for the Yu family. My dear girl, please get up quickly. Chu Tinger helped Yu Bingyan up and used her sleeves to wipe the tears from her cheeks. Then, she hugged Yu Bingyan tightly in her embrace and said gently, Tian''G.T had already said that he is only going to confirm the marriage proposal but not discuss your title yet. However, he definitely wouldn't let you down. While we have only made an agreement about the marriage, you are no longer the little princess of the Yu family but the unwed daughter-in-law of our Ling family. Even if it is for our Ling family, you have to stay healthy. Do you understand? I am still waiting to hug a grandson, so don't let me down. Yu Bingyan's face immediately turned bright red as she buried her face in Chu Tinger's bosom. As though she was in her own mother's embrace, she felt a sense of warmth and comfort. With her emotions bursting forth, she couldn't help but cry out, "Mother!" Chu Tinger broke out into a wide smile and responded with a chuckle, "Child, don't be afraid. If Tanner dares to bully you in future, I will take care of him for sure. The males in our Ling family are all managed by the ladies." As though he was wiping off the tears from the corner of his eyes, Yu Tian suddenly burst out into laughter. What was the old saying? A girl really can't be kept once she is grown up. The token of this proposal is still in my possession and you have already started to call her mother. Before anyone else could even tease her, her very uncle had already started to tease her. As Third Master Yu said that, the originally embarrassed Yu Bingyan, Chu Tinger and Ling Tian all glared at him with fury. Chu Tinger then said slowly, "In-law, Yanner is now a member of my Ling family, and while you are Yanner's uncle, it is best to watch your language in future, lest we end up being a joke in front of others. Thankfully there aren't any outsiders here, otherwise we would definitely be looked down upon by them." As Yu Tian heard that, he was completely dumbfounded. A moment ago, Yu Bingyan was still crying her eyes out, and after exchanging their tokens of this proposal, Yu Bingyan had already turned into someone from the Ling family. Especially Chu Tinger's words, in order to ensure that Third Master Yu understood her, she purposefully used simple words and even said it with a solemn tone. Yu Tian looked at the three furious ladies in front of him and couldn't help but raise his hands in surrender. After letting out an awkward cough, he realized that he didn't know what to say and could only retreat in defeat. Ha ha! A wave of laughter broke out behind him. Ling Tian didn't say anything from the start to the end. Facing Yu Bingyan's deep love for him, Ling Tian suddenly felt that regardless of what he said, he would still feel powerless in this situation. At the same time, he was extremely moved in his heart. He couldn't help but clench his fists as he swore in his heart, "Yanner, rest assured. I will definitely cure your illness. I, Ling Tian, will never allow you to go into the afterlife to wait for me alone. We have yet to become a celestial pair of lovers whom everyone is envious of." "Chenner, is there any news from the north yet?" Seeing Yu Bingyan escape and Chu Tinger leaving with a satisfied smile, Ling Tian asked Ling Chen. "No, This matter is extremely fishy and difficult to grasp. Ling Tian said with furrowed brows, can it be that our intelligence network in the north is broken? If not, this matter can't be explained. Ling Tian paced around unhurriedly as he said, perhaps there may be something else fishy about this matter. Order Ling 6 to question the north about this. Ling Chen acknowledged Ling Tian's orders, and before she could take a step forward, the cry of a falcon sounded and a black dot could be seen approaching them. The next moment, a falcon perched itself on Ling Chen's shoulders and began lovingly pecking on her cheeks. Ling Chen let out a smile and undid a small bamboo container by its feet. There was a ball of paper within it, and Ling Chen said with a smile, it is news from the north. Ling Tian then responded with a no. Suddenly, Ling Chen, who was opening the piece of paper, started to sway as her face turned completely pale. She read the slip of paper twice to ensure that she didn't misread it, and her hands began to tremble as the slip of paper landed on the floor. Ling Tian immediately knew that something was wrong. With a wave of his hands, a wave of inner qi was sent out, and the slip of paper floated into his hands like there was a string attached to it. Wei Qingping used the martial order medallion to kill young noble. Make swift preparations. Urgent. These were the only words written on the slip of paper, and the words were extremely untidy. It was obvious just how anxious the person writing this message was. Martial order medallion. Beyond heavens. Ling Tian let out a smile as he raised his head up. With a twitch of his eyebrows, two azure dragons seemed to have shot out of his eyes. No wonder. No wonder the Yu family would act like that. Young noble, this. What should we do? That is the martial order medallion that a life can be traded with. Ling Chen had completely lost her cool and her voice was filled with anxiousness. If it was before she knew about the presence of the martial order medallion and beyond heavens, it wouldn't matter too much. But after seeing the frightening influence when Yi Qingchen mentioned beyond heavens and seeing the mysterious green-robed expert that Ling Tian, Ling Jian, Ling Qi and herself couldn't even stop, Ling Chen felt her heart turn cold. Ling Tian had once said that green-robed elder was very likely to be the one to carry out the requests of the martial order medallion. With the strength displayed by the green-robed elder, he was without a doubt the #1 expert in the world today. Now, the target of this unparalleled expert was Ling Tian. With Ling Tian's present martial arts, it was impossible for him to be a match for the green-robed expert. Just what should they do? Ling Tian couldn't help but let out a smile and tapped Ling Chen's nose lightly. Chener, is your young noble not a match for beyond heavens in your heart? Can it be that everyone from beyond heavens is a tiger? Can they all eat me up alive? Ling Chen forced a smile as she said with a depressed tone, if everyone from beyond heavens were tigers, perhaps Chener wouldn't be so worried. Young noble is without a doubt talented beyond your peers, and in Ling Chen's heart, no one will be able to compare to you. But no matter how talented young noble is, you have only been cultivating for a little over 10 years. The energy of a single person is limited after all, and this #1 expert of beyond heavens would have 50 years worth of cultivation at the very least. Furthermore, he has the unparalleled martial arts manuals of beyond heavens and a senior to give him pointers. In comparison, young noble is definitely on the losing end. As she said that, she suddenly lifted her head up and looked at Ling Tian. Young noble, no matter what, I will walk through this tribulation with you. If young noble can come out victorious, Chener won't be affected. If anything untoward were to happen to young noble, Chener will definitely accompany you to the afterlife and you will never be alone. As Ling Chen said that, she was already resolved to live and die with Ling Tian. Despite the combination of the many experts from back then, they were still unable to defeat the green-robed expert. If there was only Ling Tian himself, how would he possibly deal with the green-robed expert? Ling Tian then laughed and said proudly, Chener, you are looking down far too much on your young noble. In this world, I don't think that there exists an individual who can take my life. Beyond heavens? Ha ha ha. So what about them? Ling Tian responded with a smile, but her brows were still furrowed with worry. If I am not wrong, the Yu family must have known that Wei Qingping had used the martial order medallion to kill me, Ling Tian said with a smile. Seeing how Ling Tian was so disturbed about the martial order medallion, he decided to change the topic. So, the Yu family decided to propose a marriage to my Ling family at such a moment. They want to make use of this opportunity to grasp the strength of my Ling family in their hands. Indeed, no one thinks that I will be able to escape from beyond heavens, and even Yu Man Lu is no exception. However, Bing Yan is truly in love with me, and it would be impossible for the Yu family to seize the authority of the Ling family through her. According to my estimations, the Yu family must have other plans. Chenner, can you make a guess what the plan of the Yu family is? Ling Tian asked with a carefree tone. Chapter 353, Martial Arts Realm. Ling Chen felt as though there was a sword stabbing right through her heart, and her eyes were already clouded by tears, with her voice trembling. Yu family's plans? What plans? She knew that all the plans of the Yu family would only come to fruition if Ling Tian left the Ling residence or even the world. Thinking about that, how could Ling Chen not be devastated? How would she be able to think clearly? Ling Tian let out a sigh, pulled her into his embrace, and patted her on the back. Silly lass, we can no longer avoid the matter and have to face it boldly. Since we cannot avoid the enemy, we have to use all we have to exterminate him. Life and death isn't anything big, so why should we be so bothered about it? Don't forget that when you first met your young noble, we were still kids, and both the Yang and Imperial families were far stronger than us at that time. However, what has happened now? Ling Chen clenched her teeth and nodded her head as tears streamed down her cheeks. At the same time, her gaze also turned ice cold. No matter who it is who wants to harm young noble, I will make sure they don't leave alive. At the very least, I will just accompany my young noble into the next life. As long as we can live and die together, death isn't scary at all. Ling Tian suddenly felt the temperature of his surroundings plunge down as the hot summer suddenly felt like the freezing chiller. Under Ling Chen's feet, a thick layer of ice had already been formed by the chilly killing intent rising from within her heart. Ling Tian couldn't help but be shocked. For the first time in her life, this gentle fairy had unleashed such a powerful wave of killing intent towards someone. The only reason was because the person wanted to harm Ling Tian. Also, this included Wei Qingping from Northern Wei. This name was already engraved onto a list of death in Ling Chen's heart. Ling Chen had already decided that the moment Ling Jian came out, the first mission for him would be the slaughter of Wei Qingping and his imperial family. As long as Ling Jian were to let a single one remain alive, he would have let down the young noble's many years of teachings. The Yu family has always faced difficulty in skybearing for the past decade due to our interference. As long as they want to continue establishing ground in skybearing, they would definitely have to do it in secret. However, it would be impossible for them to have a large foundation established. Thus, skybearing is probably the only place in the whole continent where the Yu family's strength is weak. After having many hidden confrontations, the Yu family did not gain the upper hand, and skybearing has already turned into Yu Man Lu's biggest worry. Even in his dreams, he would probably be thinking about how he can arrange a chess piece into the center of the continent. Thus, it wouldn't matter if the Yu family doesn't come this time. But the moment they arrive, they would definitely launch a thunder-like move. Ling Tian paced around slowly as he continued pondering over just what the Yu family's plan was. Behind him, a gust of wind sounded and Ling Tian's eyes erupted forth with killing intent. "Little brother, have you been well? An uninvited guest is here to disturb you." A crisp laugh sounded from behind him. "Brother Yi." Ling Tian turned around with excitement. "I never imagined that you would be here at such a moment. What gust of wind brought you here today?" Yi Qingchen let out a smile and leisurely walked over. However, Ling Tian's acute senses could already detect a tinge of worry hidden in Yi Qingchen's eyes. "Little brother, This time, you are really in trouble. If you cannot get through this. Yi Qingchen shook his head and paused there. It seems like older brother already knows that someone in your sect wants me dead, Ling Tian said with a calm smile. Older brother can't possibly be here to carry out the mission, right? As Ling Tian said that, Ling Chen began to grow nervous as she warily looked at Yi Qingchen. That mission can only be carried out by the holder of the martial order medallion. This old man has spent my whole life dwelling on other unimportant things, and my martial arts achievement is extremely limited. How can I be the owner of the martial order medallion? Yi Qingchen said with a chuckle. In every generation, there can only be a single owner of the martial order medallion. His martial arts must definitely be at the peak, with his medicinal skills reaching perfection. This old man is ashamed to say that my martial arts can only be considered a third-rate existence in the sect. Only a single person? Ling Tian said with a smile. Is he dressed in green? Haha. Yi Qingchen laughed out loud. That unreasonable nut is indeed usually dressed in green. I didn't expect you to have seen him already. How is he? Yi Qingchen was obviously asking if the both of them had exchanged pointers before. Ling Tian responded by shaking his head. The martial arts of that individual are far too powerful. For the next 10 years, I won't be able to match up to him. Thinking for a while, Ling Tian added, it would be impossible for me to deal with him, or even kill him now. Kill him? Yi Qingchen laughed. Little brother, this older brother doesn't want to scare you, but there probably isn't anyone capable of killing him in the world. His martial arts are undoubtedly the #1 in the world. Oh, then what is older brother's purpose for this visit? Is it to destroy the last shred of my confidence? Or is it to lend me assistance to escape from the martial order medallion? Quit dreaming. Yi Qingchen rolled his eyes and scolded laughingly. His tone then turned serious as he said solemnly, little brother, this older brother is here to ask you something. Yi Qingchen took a step forward and said with undisguised worry, follow this old man and leave the conflict of the pugilistic world. Join me to carefreely roam the continent and enjoy the rest of your life. With little brother's cultivation, it wouldn't be impossible for you to ascend to immortality. How about that? As long as you agree, there wouldn't be a Ling Tian in the mortal world anymore, and I would be in charge of talking to the martial order medallion owner. There definitely wouldn't be a problem. Even if that murderous nut is completely heartless, he would still have to show this old man some face. In Yi Qingchen's estimations, after making such an offer, the arrogant Ling Tian, who had the ambition to rule the world, would probably respond with disdain or even fly into a rage. However, Yi Qingchen really admired this youth in front of him and really wanted to save him from his current predicament. He had already thought of how he should deal with Ling Tian's reaction. If not for the fact that he had previously personally witnessed Ling Tian's stunning martial arts, he would probably have thoughts of kidnapping Ling Tian and taking him away. However, Ling Tian unexpectedly didn't reject him on the spot and fell into deep thought instead. After pacing around the courtyard for a while, he sat down on a bench below the rack of grapes and again fell into deep thought. He obviously didn't take Yi Qingchen's words lightly and seemed to be considering something. A long while later, Ling Tian asked, older brother, you exchanged pointers with this little brother back then as well. Do you really not think that I can triumph this time? Does this little brother not have even a chance to win? Yi Qingchen let out a long sigh and said, if we didn't exchange pointers back then, I wouldn't be so worried. However, it is because little brother's strength is too stunning that I am afraid you wouldn't be willing to take a step back and would choose to fight to the death. As long as there exists a single trace of hope, I wouldn't be willing to do this either. Originally, if both parties can enter into the Xian realm, as long as one party cannot win, it wouldn't be difficult for him to make a retreat. However, this person is an exception. You don't know just how frightening he really is until facing him yourself. After considering for a while, Yi Qingchen said with difficulty, he He has already surpassed the realm of martial learning. Oh? He has already surpassed the realm of martial learning? Ling Tian frowned and drew a circle on the ground before saying in an indifferent manner, "It seems that he has entered into the martial way realm." Ah. Yi Qingchen was startled. "You already know about the martial way realm?" "That's right." Ling Tian put on a carefree smile and said, "The so-called martial arts can actually be split into 4 different realms. The common people are ignorant and think that a mere boxing routine or swinging their swords around can be considered the study of martial arts. However, they are extremely wrong." I would like to hear more." Yi Qingchen also seemed to be puzzled. What Ling Tian had just said was also recorded in the records of Beyond Heavens but was vastly different. Thus, he couldn't help but ask with curiosity. If one strengthens his body with martial arts and is capable of displaying a few boxing routines to become a street entertainer, that is the martial technique realm. It is just a technique for people to earn their living and can barely be considered martial arts. Ling Tian said slowly, "That is the most shallow form of boxing and isn't anything special. When facing an opponent, if their opponent was an ordinary individual, it wouldn't matter much. But if they were to face a person who has truly cultivated proper martial arts, it would be useless. It is only good for entertaining people and putting up a show and can be said to be the lowest form of martial arts." The second category is the martial skill realm. The 18 martial weapons can be considered within it, and someone who has trained to the second realm can enter the battlefield to kill their enemies. In other words, only the second realm of martial skill onwards has the ability to cause fatal damage. However, it can only amount to so much, and even if one can be proficient in all 18 weapons, he wouldn't be considered much. As for the third category, it is the martial learning realm. It includes the martial techniques that the men from the pugilistic world use. Ling Tian said with a proud smile, "Martial arts is a type of science and one has to use his whole life to explore and research it. Only when one reaches such a realm would he be able to compare martial arts as a scholarly art. In the world today, there probably aren't many who have achieved such a realm." Ling Tian then lifted his head up and smiled at Yi Qingchen. "Brother Yi is a good example. Only those who enter the Xiantian realm can be barely considered to be part of the martial learning realm. As for the others, there isn't even a need to talk about them. However, the highest realm of martial arts is called the martial way," Ling Tian said with a serene expression, "the way of martial arts. This is a realm that one can only look at but not attain. Of the millions of martial arts practitioners in the world, it would be rare to see even a single person attain this realm. The martial way realm emphasizes becoming one with the world. Perhaps one wouldn't be capable of moving the mountains and controlling the oceans, but he would be able to take a peek into the heavenly ways. I never imagined that there was someone in the world who has achieved such a realm." Yi Qingchen was shocked to the point he couldn't say a thing. Ling Tian's explanation was almost identical to what was recorded in Beyond Heavens and was even more detailed. However, the records of Beyond Heavens were written by generations of peerless martial arts experts. Just how was Ling Tian able to know all of this despite his young age? Chapter 354, Martial Order Medallion Order. How does he know so much despite his young age? Could it be that? An incredulous thought surfaced in Yi Qingchen's head. Could it be that he has also entered the martial way realm? Seeing Yi Qingchen's look of disbelief, Ling Tian immediately understood what Yi Qingchen must be thinking about. He couldn't help but chuckle. With this little brother's present accomplishment, I am still half a step behind older brother Yi and would naturally be far away from the martial way realm. This little brother is only capable of theorizing. However, since older brother is here, can you enlighten me about the martial order medallion owner? Can you help this little brother to understand the greatest opponent in my life? I think the martial order medallion owner wouldn't mind if older brother revealed some of his secrets." Yi Qingchen let out a heavy sigh. While Ling Tian didn't give him a straightforward answer, His lack of reply had already indicated that Ling Tian wasn't willing to back out from the war for hegemony. This was also akin to accepting the challenge of the martial order medallion owner. Thus, Yi Qingchen couldn't help but feel regret and pity in his heart. In this world, there were far too few people who were capable of talking about the sword while enjoying wine with him. Ling Tian was one of them, and even the one who he could get along with the most. If not, why would he make the effort to rush to sky-bearing at such a time? Yi Qingchen naturally didn't want Ling Tian to die under the martial order medallion like that. Thus, after receiving news from his sect, he had thrown all things aside and rushed to sky-bearing. He wanted to make use of his influence to persuade Ling Tian to back out from this war of hegemony. As long as Ling Tian decided to back out, Yi Qingchen could use his connections to help resolve this life and death crisis for Ling Tian. However, Ling Tian's rejection was resolute, and Yi Qingchen didn't have any way to persuade him. Just as he was feeling frustrated, he couldn't help but feel that this little fellow in front of him was indeed similar to the martial order medallion owner. Even this stinking temperament of theirs. Yi Qingchen shook his head helplessly. Due to the rules of his sect, it was impossible for Yi Qingchen to help Ling Tian fight the martial order medallion. Furthermore, Yi Qingchen was clear that with the martial arts of the martial order medallion owner, his addition would be almost insignificant and he would just be sacrificing his life for nothing. Thus, he couldn't help but give a depressed sigh. Hearing what Ling Tian had just asked him, he thought to himself for a moment before replying, "According to what I know, the martial order medallion owner is someone who does not have a name or surname and is an orphan who the sect master adopted from somewhere. However, he is truly a gifted individual and his peers couldn't even hold a candle to him." After entering the sect for merely a year, he had already displayed his stunning martial arts talent. Regardless of the cultivation method, it just needs to be explained to him a single time and he would be able to memorize it completely and even deduce many other things himself. Any martial technique displayed in front of him once would be sufficient for him to grasp it fully. The previous sect master had once lamented that he was a once-in-a-hundred-years genius and an unprecedented genius whose talent far exceeds his own. Ling Tian and Ling Chen were also shocked. This person could actually be so capable. A genius would usually lack willpower and tenacity, but this person was completely different. Not only was he ruthless in killing his enemies, he was even more ruthless towards himself. When he was only 7 years old, in order to practice his martial arts, he started to practice his swordplay in a secret ground of beyond heavens. That secret ground was situated at the eye of the storm, where the winds were truly like blades, capable of cutting through human skin. In just a single day, he was riddled with injuries with not a single part of his body left intact. But after the sect master had rescued him, he would return the next day regardless of the season or weather. For a full 3 years, he didn't miss even a single day. Ever since he was 10, he began to practice his swordplay under a waterfall, enduring the pressure of the waterfall and using it to temper his body. He proceeded from the smallest of waterfalls to the largest, and at the very end of his training, he was able to endure the pressure of a 10,000-foot waterfall for a full 3 days and nights. At his pinnacle, he was even able to reverse the flow of a 10,000-foot waterfall by his sword. At that time, the sect master commented that his martial arts skill was unparalleled in the world. Thus, the sect master handed the mission of the martial order medallion over to him. Ling Tian sucked in a deep breath of cold air. According to what Yi Qingchen had described, this person couldn't be considered a human. He was a monster. A perverse being. Yi Qingchen was filled with worry as he continued. This child was naturally arrogant and his parents were killed by their enemies when he was young. After that, he was adopted by an old man, but the old man was accidentally killed when he was merely 3. As such, he had suffered much bullying since he was young and his youth was extremely pitiful. This was also the cause of his extreme character, and he felt that there was no such thing as justice in the world. It was difficult to find someone kind in the world, and it was acceptable to kill anyone. Furthermore, He felt that he was the one who was the justice in charge of the life and death of the people in the world. Thus, he gave himself a name, Justice. Justice. Ling Tian shook his head with a sigh. To think that there was someone like this in the world. He was no different from being egotistical. Ling Tian couldn't help but reminisce about his past life where he always shouted to the vast oceans, "Where is justice in the world? Where is justice?" Now that justice had truly appeared, it was here to take his life. Ling Tian laughed bitterly in his heart. But at the same time, he could empathize with the extreme character of that justice. In his previous life, didn't he also feel the same way? However, he was much luckier in this life of his and could also be considered more successful. Was it a fated encounter? Thus, Justice never bothered about whether or not the person he was killing was good or bad. In his heart, this wasn't a matter of concern. He felt that killing someone wasn't a form of sin but a form of justice. He felt that he was helping the person find justice and so would be extremely happy about it. Thus, he gave himself a nickname called Sending Justice. Thankfully, he had always kept to the rules of the sect and never once killed indiscriminately. If he were to go crazy, there would probably be no one in the world capable of stopping him. Justice had killed 3 people because of the martial order medallion, 14 because of pugilistic world enmities and had taken action a total of 17 times. Each and every single individual he kills is either a peerless expert or influential figure. However, none of them were spared under his hands. Qingchen didn't even know what to feel as he said that and could only give a helpless laugh. As Qingchen muttered those words, even he himself felt shocked. Could this still be a human? Why do I feel as though I am describing a monster? He had never summarized all of Justice's actions together before and now that he had done so, he was also in shock. Is this person really a human? Ling Chen's eyes were widened with fear filling her eyes. Just what kind of a monster was her young noble about to face? He is far too scary. Far too terrifying. Far too extreme. Far too invincible. For the first time in her life, the usually confident Ling Chen was uncertain if Ling Tian would be able to deal with the crisis. Ling Tian gave a bitter laugh. Such an individual was just a bigoted maniac. Justice could no longer be described as a martial arts fool. He was a complete martial arts maniac. However, the most important thing in his life was his promises. There weren't many people in the world worthy of him making a promise. If one were to summarize his life would be almost a blank slate. Apart from practicing his martial arts and completing the sect missions, there wasn't anything else to his life. However, Justice has a habit of being a lone operator. No matter what he had to face, he would face it alone. However, he would always be able to settle the matter well. Apart from his martial arts being unparalleled, his medicinal skills are also exceptional. However, no one knows just how exceptional his medical skills are. As such, the strength of this person could be said to be a complete mystery. Apart from himself, he was a mystery who no one could solve. Qingchen felt that his description was extremely vague and was even a little strange. However, he had finally said his piece and let out a long breath. Does he have any family members? Ling Tian asked a critical question. Family members? To Justice, this is a taboo. His last family member would be our sect master. Qingchen gave a bitter laugh before looking at Ling Tian with a profound look. He has never touched any ladies. In his eyes, there isn't such a thing as gender in the world and we are all humans. Justice would never show any mercy to a lady. In his life, apart from the sect master and the few friends he truly trusted, he would never allow anyone to come within 3 feet of himself. He is no different from a monster. However, he is a monster who treats his friends very well. Although he doesn't have many friends. As though he was trying to recollect something, Qingchen paused for a while before continuing, because we came from the same sect, this old man is one of the friends who that monster acknowledges. We have had our fair share of conversations and can be said to get along with each other. As he said that, he smiled. 2 years ago, Yu Zhaochen from Jade of Heavenly Star exited from his 10 years-long seclusion and finally entered into the Middle's Yantian realm. Back then, he had some enmity with me and so he came to create trouble for me. However, those were my personal affairs, and it had nothing to do with the sect. Furthermore, we had agreed to only exchange pointers and not take the life of the other party. Coincidentally, I was playing chess with Justice when Yu Zhaochen came to find me and a single statement from him had infuriated Justice. Thus a huge battle which only the three of us knew about broke out. Perhaps, it couldn't even be considered a big battle. Justice only took 7 moves to deal with Yu Zhaochen who had just gone through 10 years of closed-door seclusion. What was the weapon he used to kill Yu Zhaochen in 7 moves? Ling Tian's face grew uglier and uglier.
Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation. And press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.